It's when things are close together, there's a better certainty, and this is what I couldn't describe, is a dumbed down version or a sloppy copy of something. See, it isn't enough to say that the president's mental capacity shapes the country under him, but it does through corporate politics. And this makes people have a certain type of way that they live their life, if they choose on posting something or not. There's like 3 bills being passed where the White House has oversight over anything posted on the internet, and if they don't like it, then you have to shut down your operation. But people are willing to go to jail for the First Amendment, and these are just the people who are notable. Other people don't even get a chance because they've already been told by the White House to not give them one. But in a similar aspect, and I'm not even bitching, it's just what it is. When there's like a parking lot, you don't go 30 miles per hour through a parking lot because there's hairpin turns and people can jut out through a car into the middle of the lane at any given point in time. And so when there's high drive, this is what I was trying to describe earlier, is with atoms and electrons as a definite size for one and indefinite. Electrons are point particles, so they're infinitely small. However, they're inevitably on an atom, or else an atom wouldn't be one without them. And so they're described in these orbitals, and so there's a definite amount of characteristics that atoms portray. And this is similar to how the white power has stuff that are designed to make fit for the public safety. And you have to understand what a safe public is another idealism that can be voted for among selves on unelected boards, who then fire boards to get new ones if they don't like what they think a safe public is. And it's really that simple. Something more simple is how fighting games enact these special moves. They're all just from, you're either in 3 things: a prone position, in motion, and the difference of a prone position to motion is a pivot. And you can have a pivot, can be described if the surface that you're on is moving or not. And the smaller a circle is, like how small a parking lot is a characteristic on its own, so is a pivot. If you have a smaller square and you know how to utilize it, you can pivot that much better. I fancy a 90 degree to a side pivot, and this opens up a whole bunch of things. But really a key to a lot more things is knowing how many pivots you have. Now, when you're either in motion in a prone position, but then once again, the surface that you're on, if it's moving, like a Tommy Lee inside of his cage that rolls, he said he got the idea from Travis Barker's crew. This is next level, folks. And this is what it is when you're on a different planet. You're going to be in a land rover, some type of mechanism. And if you know how to utilize it for the best solution, it's going to be 10 times more easier if you know what pivots are. But back to a cage, if it's stable, it's going to be easier to move your body in different directions. And all I'm doing is just describing in layman's term what they do in the Megazord, these Power Rangers going into a giant robot. We're not there yet, but this is nonetheless the key to anything, most anything. That would be one of them. The key to the Megazord. But yeah, knowing where your pivots are inside of a cage that moves, going upside down or what have you, or the small square that you stand on, and it being mobile, meaning wobbles, knowing where it wobbles. And a chaotic state from not one is definitely something where if you're throwing at heavy weight and it doesn't have clips on it, those weights at the either end when they land, they can catch an off angle and shoot them suckers out haywire. Or if you have like something that's pronged, like a metal stick, and it accidentally gets stuck and you keep pushing it, it's going to flip out at its break point. This is Hooke's law, and go somewhere a long distance. Very dangerous. So bing, bing, bong, bong. Your pivots, here's the other thing. You're either in a stable position, you're in motion, or you're grappling. Grappling's done on the ground, like with not the ground game on your feet, but when you're on the ground off your feet and on your body. This is what grappling is. And your pivots then are, of course, what in the water slide they tell you to push your shoulder blades down on the slide and your heels. These are like making a skeleton sled in the Olympics out of your body. But no, this the slide is the board. It's just an extended board, the skeleton slide. This is one way in describing your pivot that I found works preferably. When you're grappling on the ground and you're on your side, use your hips to divot into the ground to makeshift your bottom leg. So the side that you're laying on, your leg would be closest to the ground, to be in a preferable position in order to not have it be on an off angle. Because we all saw what happens to off angles when some edge gets slipped. I'll slip on an edge, folks. If you put a shear on the ground like scissors, it doubles as an ice skate if you step on it, and if it's on concrete. Let that sink in. But no, there's one pivot that you wouldn't think of, and then your hip on the other side is, of course, the second. You surprisingly have on your feet an inside pivot and an outside pivot because your Achilles heel. Knowing how to feel these is definitely one way of understanding how to do pivots on the ground game with your feet, as opposed to grappling, where your pivots are your hips. Equally as intricate. That's, if you really work at one, you're gonna open the door to so many more, just within its range. I mean, its range is called a flux, and the amount of a flux is really hard to denote because it's like a wave. And so pointing at a wave, because it's always in motion, is really hard to do if you're trying to name its middle. How to freeze time, you don't, but you can make a depiction of what a flux is and in its middle. And knowing this is a lot. It's almost as if you knew Obama can't be knocking on the window, because he's rich, because he made a shit ton of money off of God knows what, and him having a library, the whole nine. So him knocking on a window, you're never going to see him knocking on your window. He's too important. Plus, he would never accept that PR. But nonetheless, if two people said, oh my gosh, Obama knocked on my window last night, and he knocked on my window, and those people live on different sides of the world, and they got their window knocked on by the same time at Obama at nighttime, you can believe your buttons, if they're not lying, that this is a ghost in the formation of his body. I'm not saying that lightly. That would be heavy. Or a robot that has the silicone structure of Obama. And so imagine if this happened everywhere, it would be so over the top. But nonetheless, this is one way in portraying what nanoparticles do and the future that they have living with inside humans' environment, or all the microplastics you've digested. So I did a straight vlog yesterday. If you don't want to see what a 8-minute vlog is and it be straight every second of the way, don't look at what I did a video previous to this one. And what's straight is when tonality is huge. If you don't have the voice inflection, you don't know what it is with dead air to have a clean break. This is the same with edges. If you lose your edge and you're going into a vulnerable position, you're more than likely to lose the edge and enter into a slip, which is a break, a clean break. But to have a crash landing, a crash pad off of that, if you didn't have your edge, it's not orchestrated, and you're not conducting anything. Not a conductor of a train or an orchestra, a conductor of physical material, conduction. Conduction, convection, these words are so similar to just the prefix of them, the parent function of all these negatives, positives, be convex and concave. But no, today's going to be huge. The inflection is not going to be a affliction. I'm not going to get afflicted or infected. No, but it's so funny how fentanyl got loose, no one knows what it was, and then cops, they're like, if it goes in your ear, if it opens up a backpack and plumes into your tear ducts or your mouth, it's going to kill you dead on the spot, DOA, dead on arrival. You're MIA if you touch this stuff. And everyone around me, I don't know anyone. You know what I did with that dead air? It's so funny. And then you carry on from it to finish the sentence, but it's as though I just talked about death and then me saying how not well off I am. I don't know anyone. I don't know anyone who's ever, I can't say OD, I know a few people from the school who have OD'd on fentanyl. So it's this thing where I feel so gratified in the place I'm in. If you're combating the people of the place you're in, then you're fighting against the home team. So it's really hard. I picked my line. I'm so mad now because the sun is at the same place where I usually vlog behind me. So my face is going to be iconically black. I can already see from my shadows sure signs of this. I hate saying blackface because every time I do it, it reminds me of Jimmy Kimmel, how he got his position with his background having his face being painted black. In the school I went to, here's the thing, I went to like 3 schools, but when people think of, oh yeah, I went to 3 schools too, they think in the same town they went to this grade school, middle school, junior high school, which is essentially grade school and middle school, and then high school to college. No, I did that too. It's just between grade school to high school, I attended like I think 3 different schools, and so where that would usually just mean 2 in the same town, I did 3 in 3 different states, drastically different in an important impressionable part. But no, in understanding these different realities, today's going to be huge, especially if a truck has a shiny exterior, a guy's trying to show off being flamboyant. It's nothing wrong, it's just you know, I had a bullet chain that was rubber bullets. Yeah, in Chicago I had a metal chain, it was chromed out, attached to my bullet belt, but that shit phased out because it was too OP. So what are we doing? You're trying to get looks. We've got chrome exterior on a truck, and it was just like not an industrial one. So what are we trying to do? She had chrome edging on her windows of a Honda. What are we doing? Why are we doing this? But no, but today's going to be huge. When someone says it's warranted, when someone says it's granted, are these baseline effects to something that's bigger, explaining the living body, which they call law, and you're surrounded by entities? Anyone can be a dirty DA for money and get an attorney. Passing script.